Boy, she picked a nice spot to cool down and relax under these trees. Lunabelle, you picked a great spot to kick back and relax, little one. I like it. Let's make a video. So how bad do you want to be famous? Do you want to be famous? I'm just asking. Just curious. You know, I'm asking that to myself too. I'm here on YouTube. Do I want to be famous? Some people might have different answers for that, Well, a little bit of fame. Maybe if I'm doing YouTube, maybe 200,000 subscribers. If I do, TV or movies, maybe just a couple TV shows. Maybe just some commercials. I just wanted to kind of simple, not be famous, but maybe get paid to do some commercials, and and I'm just curious. This is not a judgment. I'm just talking about fame. What does fame involve? Does it start with simplicity sometimes, or does it start with people want great fame? Like, for instance, there's this show I enjoy watching called Beat Bobby Flay. And then there's another show that is hosted by this Iron Chef, Bobby Flay, and it's called Triple Threat. And it's pretty cool. These are very successful, what's known as Iron Chefs, and not everybody that competes on the show is an Iron Chef, but if you get to be Iron Chef, that is quite incredible. So on this show, they have a lot of chefs that are like world renowned, and they're famous chefs. And so maybe when they're younger, sometime in life, maybe not younger, just depending on when, but there was a time in their life where they might have said to themselves, you know what, I want to become not only a chef, but I want to become a famous chef, right? Like, you want your name to get out there, and hopefully the word gets spread, and you can open more places, and build a business for yourself. And that's kind of, in the business world, that's how the fame thing works. But if you actually think about it, all fame is really it's all kind of a business, isn't it? I mean, think about it. You let's say you're a guy or a girl that says, you know what, I think I want to be a preacher. And so you want to be a preacher, so that's where you start like a church somewhere, and you get an audience and you start preaching. Or maybe you don't have a physical church, but you want to preach maybe even here on YouTube. And you're like, I want to be a preacher. That's what I want to do. I want to preach. And if you're making yourself, if you're putting yourself in public, then you're opening yourself up to the public hearing what you got to say. And maybe your intentions were like, I don't want to be a famous preacher. I got some truth I want to teach, and I want to share it, and I want to preach it. And maybe you've been through a lot. Maybe you had to start like me. My background, born and raised in the Jehovah's Witness religion, 30 years of my life, and what actually led to me coming out of the religion. How did I do it? Because people were asking. I published a book back in 2015, and I don't have it in circulation anymore, so don't try to order one. You won't find it. It was a book called My Jehovah. 2015, I got it published, and And it was about my life journey, growing up as a Jehovah's Witness and the things that I had witnessed and the things we believed and how strongly involved I was in it and all my, my faults I had and my trying to be perfect but never could achieve perfection, and just feeling like a rotten person but still trying to be the best Jehovah Witness I could ever be because, I 100% believed in that stuff, and no one was going to convince me otherwise. The one thing, I might not have been the best behaved Jehovah's Witness, but I definitely believed in it and believed it to be the truth. It was just like, did I show that I believed it? Did I apply it to my life? Like I said, not the best, I always felt like one of those guys that just wasn't giving it my all and doing my best. I had all these fleshly things that kept getting in my way, right? And it wasn't funny to me because I felt condemned all the time. But it's like, man, why do I just keep on doing more and more stuff to get condemned? Why I don't want condemnation, but here I keep on doing stuff that brings me condemnation, And I'm like, I'm a foolish man. I'm so stupid, So I had these constant thoughts. That was my life as a Jehovah's Witness, constantly at war with myself in my head and believing it to be the truth. I thought I was at war with God, not that I was battling God, but that he was like battling me. And I was a terrible soldier for God, that kind of thing. So anyway, I wrote my story and I got it published eventually. Let me think, how did the word get around for me? Because I didn't actually know I was going to have a book that was going to become published. I just wanted to write my story down. I think I started writing that book right around the age of 40, 41, 42. Somewhere around there, not quite 42, but I might have been a little bit past 40. And so I started writing it, and as I just wanted to share my story, and I didn't know who with. I just thought, because I wasn't a writer in profession, and I didn't have connections to publishers or anything like that, and I was very clueless when it came to internet stuff. But here I had been out of the religion over 10 years, 11 years or so. I left when I was 30. I started writing that book right around 41. So that's about, I was 11 years. That's cool. That number means a lot to me. So I'm 11 years out of that religion, and I begin to write my story. And I just thought, if anybody ever wants to know the truth, why I left this stuff and what really happened, because I know there were all kinds of rumors going on, what I was up to in my 20s and stuff. And trust me, after I left the religion, I got a whole nother history following that. Yeah. Okay, so I didn't leave the religion and become Mr. Goody Two-Shoes, that's for sure. But anyway, I wrote about my story and shared it. And I'm not here to share that story. I just wanted to tell you, when I started writing, I just was kind of visualizing this being a book someday. I thought maybe some family members or maybe some friends of mine, that weren't talking to me anymore because I was no longer Jehovah's Witness. I thought maybe if they ever wanted to know what happened, instead of me explaining on the phone or through an email, I could just write a book and and have a notebook and make copies or something and give it to my buddies. And so that kind of, led to me and this guy in conversation one day. I was cutting his hair because that's what I do for a living. I cut hair. So I'm giving this guy a haircut, and he's asking me personal things, about my life. Just in conversation, not personal like it's offending me, just, who I am, where I come from, and all that. And I told him a tiny bit about my Jehovah's Witness life. And I'm like, and he's like, whoa, you were a Jehovah's Witness? And I'm like, yeah, man, 30 years. And he just, he couldn't believe it. And he's like, now what? And I'm like, well, I just had this encounter with Jesus, and I'm like, and it changed everything. and it set me free, you know. And I'm like, I did, you know, I just remember it was hard for me to explain to people, you know, my encounter in life, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't get set free by Jesus in their beliefs anyway. That's a Christian thing. But the Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't believe that stuff. But it happened to me when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and I knew it was Jesus. I'm like, what the heck? And but I didn't even know what freedom meant. You know, I didn't know what that meant, and so my misunderstanding of what freedom meant led to a whole bunch of lifestyle choices that I'm like, oh man, this is gonna come back and bite me in the ass someday. Holy moly. And it has, by the way. So so anyway, I you know how I wrote my book, and one day I wrote the words "the end," and I found my book to be completed. And so that I was telling this guy, you know, a little bit about my book, and as you know, because he's asking questions about my life as a Jehovah's Witness, and so and then I said, yeah, I kind of wrote my story. You know, if you ever want to read it, I'll share it with you. And he says, oh, you wrote a story? He says, I wrote a story too. And he says, I got it published. I'm like, really? He wrote a story about how his wife and him had lost a child through what's called sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, where your baby, you know, they had a baby that was like 2 years old, a young daughter, and she had she had died through SIDS, and the sad thing is he and his life had just left to do something, and this guy whose hair I was cutting was telling me about his dad and his mom were there at the house watching their daughter, and so and they got a phone call while they were on the road, you know, something happened, you got to come home. And so they wrote their story about that, and he told me he got it published, and he's like, you should publish your book too. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I mean, I don't really know any publishers, and I don't know how to do that stuff. And he's like, no, I know somebody that's a publisher. And so one thing leads to another, and he gets this lady and I together, and we publish my book, and I called it My Jehovah, because it was my story about my life as a Jehovah's Witness, but it was more of how I interpreted the one they called Jehovah God. So I made it personal, my Jehovah, instead of this was the Jehovah's Witnesses' forced belief on me about Jehovah. I wanted to actually say this is how I interpreted Jehovah through that religion and through life afterwards. And so I made it My Jehovah. And I called it that title, and I don't know, maybe that's a dumb title, maybe not, I don't know, I don't care what people think. That's what I did, you know? And then eventually the publisher wanted to interview me on YouTube, because she had a YouTube channel. So she put me on her YouTube channel and interviewed me. Now, I didn't watch YouTube. I didn't know nothing. I heard about YouTube all the time, but I never watched it. And when I found out about YouTube, and when she shared, when she put her video on YouTube, my video, the interview where she interviewed me about that book on YouTube, what happened was I had to subscribe to YouTube to be able to watch it or something. So I went on there, and then I made an account under my name, Michael Lehre, and I watched our interview when it got released, and that was pretty cool. And then I remember I had a buddy that said, hey man, you should make a YouTube channel of your own. And he says, I can help you do it, because it would be cool if you wanted to read your book on your YouTube channel. Because I got the book published, but I had no idea how, okay, it's published, but now what do I do with it? I don't know about marketing it or anything like that, you know, and I didn't even think about publishing it to market it. You know, I came into it pretty clueless. But what I did is the publisher told me, if you sell it for this much, because it cost me money to get it published. I paid money to publish it. She didn't do it for free. So to this day, I still have paid out more for that book than I have ever made in return. So that's how good at marketing anything I really am, right? Even here on YouTube, the only reason you see commercials on my channel is because YouTube started putting commercials on my channel. I didn't really want to monetize my channel because the last time I had a YouTube channel before, and the first one I started, but my friend helped me start. It was I had a lot of I had my videos on there, the interviews and all that, and then toward the end of owning that channel, I found out they were putting commercials on my channel without me knowing it. And I didn't want to monetize my channel, but I'm like, wait a minute, YouTube's making money off of me by putting commercials on my channel. So what I did is I monetized it, and it gave me problems. And that's how I think my channel got hacked, honestly, back in the day. So I lost that channel through a hacker. They made themselves sound like they were YouTube trying to contact me and say, hey, there's a problem with the monetization on your channel. And it kind of scared me, like, what? And because I'm like, well, they're making money off of me. And so I opened up my channel for monetization, and now there's a problem. And I'm like, I don't know, man, should I have even done this? So being the guy that barely learned how to make YouTube videos, I mean, I'm trust me, I'm not a technical guy at all when it comes to computer technology. But anyhow, so I get this email, and I'm thinking, oh man, what happened now? So it says to fix this, log in. So I logged in. And I got hacked. It was a fake thing sent to me, and I fell for it. And I had like, almost 12,000 subscribers, I think it was. And I had like almost 1,000 videos, 900 and almost 50, I think. And including the interview that lady did on me, the publisher, and everything was just like overnight, dude. It was gone. I lost access to my channel. And anyway, and there were people that were sending me, somebody says, hey, I recorded your videos, and here they sent me the computer stuff, whatever you call that, I don't know, some disc or something, and it was really kind of them, and I'm like, I'm thinking I don't have the technical skills, and I'm never going to give people my passwords and all that to help me anymore, because I got hacked once, and you just don't want to go through that. I've been identity thefted in the past as well, way before YouTube. Right after leaving Jehovah's Witnesses religion. I mean, right after I get out of the Jehovah's Witnesses religion, somebody identity thefted me. And it was like, man, dude, I had to file bankruptcy and all this, and it's like, look at this guy. See what happens when you leave Jehovah's Witnesses religion? Bad stuff. And I'm like, no, I knew it wasn't because I left the religion, because I knew 100% that I was in a cult and that religion was a lie. I've never questioned my decision, ever. The moment I left Jehovah's Witnesses, I have never in my life questioned, ever once. It's impossible for me to question it. It's impossible. I can't question if I made the right decision or not, because I already know that it wasn't the truth. It is not the truth, and it never will be. It's impossible for that religion to become the truth. Because there's only one truth for me. And there ain't no religion I've ever heard of, I've ever read about, I've ever sought answers to. None would I ever call the truth. They might have truths, but I wouldn't call any religion the truth. Because my truth was found within. And it came from Yeshua as I know him today. But that's neither here nor now. I want to get back to the story. So anyhow, so I have to file bankruptcy, but I wouldn't say that, at the same time when I had to file bankruptcy, how did I get identity thefted? Well, I began doing a lot of partying and hanging out with people that, just wanted to, let's do drugs, let's drink, let's party, let's go wild. But if you want this stuff, it costs a lot of money. So here I'm like putting money into doing party drugs. And before you know it, I actually, I got so caught up into it, I became what they call that drug addict. I was addicted. I needed it all day, every day. So I thought, and but it costs money. And well, so I gotta switch hands here. I'm walking her still. She's kind of guiding me around where she wants to be. So Luna's kind of taking the lead here. So anyway, I got addicted, and what happened was that addiction was so strong for me, you guys. It was like the worst thing I could have chose to do in my life, and recover from it without going to recovery and getting help, But trust me, you don't want to go the route I did. That road, oh my goodness, it came with so much pain and agony and loss. And I'll tell you what, here 10 years later, 11 years, 10 or 11 years later, shoot, that's when 10 or 11 years ago is when I wrote, it was 11 years ago I wrote that book, My Jehovah. 11 years ago I wrote the book. That's funny, there's another 11 for you, I told you. But anyway, so here, it's been about 20 years or so, a little, maybe a less, give or take, that I had to file bankruptcy. Well, 2004, I had to file bankruptcy. And in 2002 is when I left the Jehovah's Witnesses religion. And after that bankruptcy and all that, that's when the drug addiction had to end. I realized I kind of messed up myself, and that doesn't mean that I never touched a drug again or anything like that, but never like did, I'm gonna go hardcore. I didn't even want to go gentle anymore. I'm just saying, I remember going to parties and, I never had pot before. I was on this hard stuff called cocaine and meth, and then, but I tried other things after that. But anyway, that's beside the point. Why was I even getting to that? Well, this is the stuff that I went through, and I just thought maybe I could share my story. And so that's why I wrote the book as well, because it went past all of the, it went beyond just my Jehovah's Witness life. It was like what happened to me afterward, and I wasn't even like giving you the answers. Well, here's how you overcome everything, and this book's got the best ending because I finally figured everything out and I've surrendered my life to Jesus. And that wasn't what the book was about. But anyway, what ends up happening is you learn stuff through time for sure. Is I got the book published, and then before you know it, my friend helps me start a YouTube channel. I spread the word, I get connections with people on YouTube, and before you know it, I have this channel called Ultimate Mordecai. And when my channel had the bigger numbers, I remember going out in public to places where I'm at right now, and people calling out Ultimate Mordecai. And I would even be with somebody else, hanging out with somebody. And I remember I was on a date, me and this woman went to the beach for a date, and we went to a restaurant that was on the beach. And when we walked out of the restaurant, I hear my name shouted, Ultimate Mordecai. And there's a group of dudes over on, there was this grass area that they were hanging out on, and they recognized me. And she was like, wow, so she was kind of like, what, are you a celebrity? And, it's kind of trippy when you, when that kind of thing enters into your mind, because I never really thought that the channel would ever turn into anything. And, and I don't feel like it, when I say turn into anything, I'm talking like I never imagined having, let's say, 5 million subscribers or something like that, having a large audience like that. But, but I mean, you never know, things get possible. And I remember there was a time I made a Jehovah's Witness, a video for the Jehovah's Witnesses called If Jesus Was God, Who Is He Praying To? And that video, it got like over 1 million views. And was it over 1 million? Am I wrong about that? I think it was over, I think I meant to say it got over 500,000 views. But for me, that was quite a bit, because I had like maybe 1,000 something subscribers that were following my Jehovah's Witness story and answering questions, people that wanted to know, so what scriptures got you out of the thing? And I started answering questions like that on YouTube. And then I started teaching, hey, I study Hebrew and I've been studying Greek, and this is what I'm learning. And I started sharing that stuff, and and this is what And before you know it, now I'm like a Bible teacher on YouTube, and I don't think I planned on that, and I think I started getting that image, and and it's kind of was when I look back at it, it was kind of a that my channel got hacked and taken down. I lost all those subs. I'm looking at my life. I'm like, I think that was meant to be, and I might have been inwardly asking for that, and so it happened. That channel got hacked. All my videos disappeared. My subscribers were gone. And then I'm like, what do I do? And, and I felt like stupid because I did it to myself. But here's the other thing. I remember thinking, how am I going to get all those subscribers built up again? I do this thing on YouTube. I'm like a Bible preacher, teacher, and these guys are relying on me, and it was only because of one video my channel ever took off to crazy numbers. I'm like, when I made that, if Jesus was God, who is he praying to? And so I'm like, how could I do a video like that again that'll get big numbers? My mind was thinking those thoughts, and guess what? I started making videos I thinking of ways I could get big numbers again, and what kind of catchy title can I do? And before you know it, you guys, I lost the whole what I was doing, and I wasn't even thinking of where it could go anyway. What are the possibilities if this thing actually does take off and I get like 200,000 subscribers? Would I be satisfied then? Well, right now I could say, wow, that's a lot. Of course I'd be satisfied with that. Really? Would you? But when you're there, I haven't been there. When you are there, are you satisfied? Are you like, this is enough? This is enough. Now I'm talking about when you want to be, if you're somebody that, do you want to be famous? And whether you answered yes or no, well, this is what people that do want to be famous or even don't want to be famous. It's pretty much for everybody, you guys. Especially if you're just being a voice out there, whether it's a voice that's big or small, in your opinion. Maybe you start off with pure intentions. I just want to keep this thing. I'm not saying starting off with impure intentions is saying you want to be famous. Because like I said, there's probably a lot of chefs from that show that want to be famous. That started off wanting to be famous. But here's the thing, you guys. Are you ready for the scrutiny that you will get as a famous one? Because these Iron Chefs that get on these shows, to become an Iron Chef, you are scrutinized. These are tests you have to pass. You have to pass, and if you fail, you don't dare fail. You have to know everything there is about every different type of food out there and how to prepare it and taste and flavors and things that you can add with it. There's so much to it, you guys. I won't even pretend that I have a clue. But you have to be prepared for scrutiny because people will scrutinize you, right? And if you're, especially if you're famous, and if you're thinking, well, I'll just keep my subs down to 200,000 at the, hey, how do you know? And how do you know that's not enough? How do you know these little channels like mine aren't being watched right now? How do you know that everything in your phone is actually being stored up and you're thinking because you're just a little guy, it'll never come back to bite you in the ass? If you want to call it that. And I'm talking about everything that's in your private life that you think people don't know about you, whether you look it up online or if your phone is a smartphone and has the capability of recording every single thing that you do. And if it's not just our phones out there doing it, maybe your TVs, maybe your vehicles, the cameras that are on, the lights when you're driving around. I can go on and on and on. I don't want to put fear into you. I'm just saying, but you know what? The thing is, you got to ask yourself, how far am I willing to go with this fame? And what is the price behind it? Because I'll tell you what, you're famous, okay? You're famous. But then what happens when you have a life that, whether it is in your past or not, there's some things you might have buried yourself that you're hoping that'll stay buried and nobody else will have to dig it up and discover it. Because maybe you're just not so happy about the life that you lived. Maybe you're ashamed of things and you'd rather not talk about them. And you definitely hope it never goes to the public, because even, you're going to get judged, and that's a hard thing to go through. I've been there, done that, man. Been judged plenty of times. Whew, I'm going to tell you, getting where people look at you like you are evil, how dare you? I have gone through that. I can't tell you how many times, especially like in my Jehovah's Witness life, getting publicly disfellowshipped because of my sin. Oh man, I had to stand before all of these righteous people that were sold out to God, and I got disfellowshipped. And then I had to, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to get reinstated? And then I got reinstated again, meaning now I could come back, but it wasn't until 2 years later of public humiliation, 2 years of it. Nobody looking at me, nobody talking to me, thinking I was such an evil sinner. That was the cult I was in. And if you haven't been in one, you have no clue what I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, it's like somebody that's a celebrity getting caught and it being put out into the public because of their life. That's what a disfellowship Jehovah's Witness life is all about. It feels like that, you guys. Because you feel like not only are you standing before man, you're standing before God and all the angels in the heavens above. And then you're standing before this religion called Jehovah's Witnesses, ran by who is called the governing body, the Watchtower Society of Jehovah's Witnesses. And don't think that if you are Jehovah's Witness and you get disfellowshipped, don't think that the Watchtower Society doesn't know about it, because everything about your life is recorded for them. And maybe you're thinking, well, not in this technological stuff, at least what I have on my phone and all that. I mean, that's not stored. Okay, so maybe it's not the Watchtower that has that information, but what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? So you gotta I'm like, do you want to be famous, Mike? I mean, it is what it is, you guys. I could turn this channel off right now and never start it up again, because, I could be like, that's pretty scary. Or I could say, you know what? I'm going to clean up my act. I'm going to do this video stuff. I'm going to continue to, but I'm never looking up such and such kind of stuff again. And I'm never going to speak out loud the things my phone has been hearing me speak out loud, even if it's my prayers and I'm thinking it's between just me and God himself, but I'm talking out loud. And now my phone can hear me, and is it recording me? I don't know, you guys. I don't know. I'm not the technological guy. I'm just saying, what if? What if everything we've ever said has been recorded, I mean, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? If everything I've ever said has been recorded? I mean, let's say you're like, well, technology didn't start until such and such time. Well, there's plenty of news that there's things in the skies that are flying around, and people call them UFOs and UAPs. I mean, whether you believe in those things or not, whether you've seen them or not, if they're real and you don't know what they are, what if they're recording devices that have way better technology than anything you can imagine with your iPhones or your smart cars, your Teslas, whatever you got? I mean, what if these things got technology where they've been recording everything about you in your privacy while you're in the bathroom with your the door closed, and you're doing your own business, and those things, you don't think that technology can see through your house and watch what you're doing? I don't know, you guys. Wow. So I'm just saying, what if everything's recorded? I mean, that's a big deal, right? So what are you going to do? And then you become famous, what does that mean? have you been living a life of hypocrisy? You know, because if you have been, you're gonna have the religious guys. Luna, come out of there. Hold on, you guys. I'll be right back. Sorry, you guys. She was playing in dirty, nasty water, and I'm like, I don't want her to get sick, and I'm making a video, and I didn't know how long I'm gonna talk. But you know, I just wanted to share that, and it's like, wow, you know, what do? You know, if fame is your desire or not, you know, you really got to think about these things, though. And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just like, you know, the one thing is, I think no matter what, you know, we all have things in our lives that we're not proud of. And you know, if you're a voice out there or trying to make yourself one, you got to be careful, because you might have things that just come back, even from your childhood. I mean, people expose stuff. And then, do you fear man? What do you do? What do you do if the law wants to come after you? What do you do if people want to come after you? What do you do about that? You know, because it happens today. I mean, it happens to people, and you might think, well, it won't happen to me. Well, hey, think again. I'm just saying, you never know. I've had plenty of things that I thought would never happen to me, and it happened. And let me tell you, that was a nightmare. I've been here 52 years. I know that's not forever long, but I'll tell you what, I've been through some things that are living nightmares, you know. Like living nightmares, how is it? Because it stays in your mind if you allow it, you know. I'm like, I don't want that fear of man. Come on, Luna, we're going to go back to the car. We're going to go back this way. I think she's thirsty. And I just gave her a little water, but she wouldn't take it. So anyway, we're going to go back. But anyhow, you know, all I can say for me, man, I don't want to make this sound like, oh, here he goes with religion stuff. But, you know, I won't make it religious. I'll just ask you a question. You know, so if you are famous and you get exposed for something eventually, even if you're the small guy, something comes out. And, you know, like I remember some years ago, there was this guy that was like doing this Christianity stuff on YouTube, and he had these huge numbers. And then one day it got exposed that he was actually taking all his money, you know, pretending to be some sort of a super minister that was super, like, you know, preaching about, you know, righteousness through not only grace, but you got to prove your works and stuff too. And, you know, this biblical doctrine about that. And a lot of people really liked him. Dude, you should hear this guy. He's got this grace message and it's amazing. And but it's like grace and action, you know, and his doctrinal stuff, and he knows. He wasn't even a Jehovah's Witness, but he knows how to prove them wrong and all that. And they would send me videos, and I'm like, I watched a couple. I'm like, you know, I didn't really. I'm like, I'm not trying to follow a dude, you know. I'm thinking in my head, I appreciate people making cool videos, but I'm not really trying to follow somebody else or get jealous, because he had like 200 and something thousand, I think, subscribers, maybe 300,000, maybe more. I don't remember, but you know, it got exposed that he was you know, he had to make a video eventually because he got caught doing drugs and it came out in the open, and you know, he probably thought that life would be private, and then it went out into the open, and now he's known as the hypocritical Christian, because he is doing drugs, and he was preaching vehemently against things like that. Hold on one second. All right. My arm is getting tired. I have to switch. So anyway, so now he's known as this hypocritical drug addict guy, but you know what? He makes a public confession video eventually, and, you know, and before you know it, his numbers went back up and all this. I didn't follow the guy. I just kind of saw some of his story, and I'm like, okay. So I'm like, there's something that comes back to bite you in the ass, as I said earlier. And it most certainly did him. And I'm not condemning the dude, or I'm just like, well, you know, when you want to make yourself a Christian preacher, teacher on YouTube, you know, and you know, because you're preaching Jesus, whether you call it Christian or not, you know, you can just be the grace person or whatever, you know, or an ultimate Mordecai, or you can, you know, whatever you want to call it. You can be the little guy you think. You can grow into what you interpret as the great guy because of your sub count and viewers and all that. And the truth is, you guys, we all got to think about, I'm not saying how do you bury your past? How do you hide all this stuff about yourself? Or maybe you should start thinking about changing your life. Hey, guess what? Maybe you should start thinking about changing your life. That is the truth. Maybe we should all start thinking about changing our lives. In what way? I got nothing to hide. I'm not saying you got something to hide. I'm saying it's growth. Keep your mind moving. Keep thinking new thoughts that are healthy thoughts for your mind and learn things. And ask yourself questions like this dude earlier today. I'm walking Little Luna this morning and this guy rides by on his bicycle and says, I can't imagine anything worse than going to the beach on a day like this. And I'm like, be careful what you ask for, buddy, in my mind. Like, you can't think of anything worse than going to the beach, which is right around the corner from here, you guys. It's right here in San Diego, California, at a very nice part of San Diego, California. And he can't think of anything worse than going to the beach on a day like this. Wow. Oh, be careful what you ask for, dude. Because there's plenty of us that can think of a whole lot of things worse than going to the beach on a day like this. So I'm just like, I gotta make a video. So I made a really short video, like 3 minutes or something like that. But anyway, but back to the fame thing, I mean, what do you do? So yeah, get your act together. Okay, but whatever you do, you guys, just make sure you're cool with who you are inside. And I hope you know that, I have my heart is just different because I always have my belief inside. I mean, you can call it belief. I call it past belief. It's my knowing. It's my knowing that, man, I am forgiven by one source and that's it. I'm forgiven. And you know what? I have a past that can come and bite me in my ass, of course, especially if every single thing has been recorded, and these things you're watching up there are a whole lot more than just some bad guys that want to abduct you, but maybe they're also recording everything about your life. Maybe there's some that want to abduct you, and then maybe there's some that are just keeping a record because that's what their job is. Sure, some might have abandoned their jobs and went to a different thing on their own. But then there are also some that are keeping their jobs and keeping their positions of where they were set out to be. And they haven't gone off course and chosen their own path to go. And maybe they are recording every single thing about you. What? To expose you? No. It's just everything's being recorded, that's all. They're not recording to expose. They were just hired to record, that's all. Who are we to judge what it's for? Maybe it's so that, you can see your whole life someday and say, oh my God, this is the greatest story. And you want to watch your own story. And because you're living in eternity, let's say, because we're all going to step out of our bodies. And what do we enter into? Well, you can be nothingness eternally, like the Jehovah's Witnesses teaching, or you can step into eternity and maybe you can watch your movie on a screen. Everything. I mean, I couldn't imagine watching a greater movie than my story. Not to say to be conceited. I mean, I would love to go back to my childhood and watch how it all started and then be able to just continue every thought, what was I thinking at that moment? And, that being recorded, maybe it's a blessing. I certainly would see it that way, but you know, but I also, when the stuff that I am ashamed of comes and bites me in my ass during that story, and it kind of gets scary, I know that I can have a hand that's put on my shoulder, and that hand says, "It's okay, son, I've got you." All right, you guys, have a great Sunday. I love you. God bless you all.